I am Rebecca Mitchell, 32, and I work in corporate marketing. Right now, I am standing frozen in the doorway of the VIP suite as the hotel manager addresses me as the owner in front of my stunned parents. For a lifetime, I have been the less successful child compared to my brother Thomas. This 40th anniversary weekend was supposed to be a simple gift, but in one sentence, my secret of 3 years has been exposed. My mother's champagne glass is suspended midway to her lips, and my father's jaw has literally dropped. The question hanging in the air is so loud it might as well be screamed, "Owner." What does he mean by owner? Before I tell you how this all unfolded, let me know where you're watching from in the comments. Hit that like button if you've ever felt like the underappreciated child in your family, and subscribe to hear more stories about family drama and unexpected revelations. Trust me, you'll want to stick around to see how my parents react when they learn what their underachieving daughter has really been up to. Growing up as Rebecca Mitchell meant living in the shadow of perfection. My brother Thomas was everything my parents dreamed of. Valedictorian star athlete and eventually the prestigious Dr. Thomas Mitchell, MD. Meanwhile, I was just Rebecca, the daughter who was creative. Their polite way of saying I wasn't academically gifted like my brother. When I was 10, I won first place in a regional art competition. My parents attended but spent most of the event on their phones, checking email updates about Thomas's science fair project 3 states away. When they framed a photo from that day, it wasn't of me with my blue ribbon, but of Thomas's project that they'd seen only in pictures. That was the pattern of my childhood. "Rebecca, why can't you apply yourself like your brother?" became such a common refrain that I could mouth the words along with my father when he started. My mother was more subtle but equally damaging, with comments like, "Not everyone can be brilliant, like Thomas, dear. Your skills are just different." High school brought more of the same. Thomas was accepted to Harvard on scholarship. I got into UCLA with decent grades, and my father actually asked if I'd considered community college instead to save the family some money. I still remember his exact words. "It's not like you're going to become a doctor or lawyer anyway." I graduated with honors in business and marketing. At my graduation dinner, my father toasted Thomas's acceptance to medical school before mentioning my accomplishment as an afterthought. My mother's contribution was to suggest I find a nice husband in my new marketing job, someone stable, since you're not likely to earn much in that field. I did find success, though not the kind they valued. I worked my way up in a major marketing firm developing campaigns for luxury hospitality brands. I learned the business inside and out. When a significant bonus came my way 3 years ago, I did something crazy. An investment opportunity arose, a boutique hotel on the verge of bankruptcy in a prime location. With every penny of my savings and that bonus, I became the majority owner. Nights, weekends, and every vacation day went into transforming that failing property into something special. The Larkspur Hotel became my baby, my secret triumph. Within 18 months, it was profitable. By year 2, it was featured in travel magazines. But I never told my family. Why bother? Thomas was performing revolutionary research while I was just playing with hotels. Then came my parents' 40th anniversary announcement 6 months ago. My mother called gushing about how Thomas would surely plan something extravagant. "He mentioned chartering a yacht," she said, her voice gleeful. "Isn't he thoughtful?" 2 weeks before the anniversary weekend, my phone rang at 1:01 p.m. It was Thomas. "Bex, I need a favor," he said, using his childhood nickname for me that only appeared when he wanted something. "I can't arrange anything for Mom and Dad's anniversary. The medical conference in Boston takes priority." "You've had 6 months to plan something," I pointed out. "Look, I'm busy saving lives," he snapped. "Just book them something nice. You have time for that kind of thing." Before I could argue, he added, "Nothing fancy, obviously. I know your budget is limited with your job situation." That was when I decided to host them at the Larkspur, my hotel, without revealing I was the owner. I'd give them a magical weekend, and they'd never know their underachieving daughter was behind it. When I told Thomas my plan to host at the Larkspur, his laughter cut deep. That place. On your budget, they'll probably be in the worst room next to the ice machine. But whatever, it's your failure. Little did he know, I'd already begun planning the perfect anniversary celebration in the hotel that bore my name on the deed. Planning my parents' anniversary weekend became a delicate balancing act. I wanted everything to be perfect, to show them what I was capable of without actually telling them. During a staff meeting at the Larkspur, I explained the unusual situation. My parents will be checking in this weekend, I told my management team. No one is to address me as the owner or mention my position. As far as they're concerned, I'm just their daughter who booked them a stay. My hotel manager Jackson raised an eyebrow. Miss Mitchell, are you sure about this? It might get complicated. I'm sure, I insisted. They've spent my entire life believing I'm not capable of much. Let them enjoy the weekend without knowing it's all because of me. I threw myself into personalizing every aspect of their stay. The welcome basket included my father's favorite bourbon from a small batch Kentucky distillery he'd mentioned once during a Christmas dinner 3 years ago. For my mother, I arranged for the specific lavender bath products from a French company she had raved about after her friend brought her some from Paris. These were details they never imagined I'd remembered or valued. The anniversary dinner menu featured modernized versions of dishes from their wedding reception. Information I'd gathered by secretly contacting my mother's maid of honor from 1982. I arranged for a string quartet to play the song from their first dance. Every detail was thoughtfully curated by the daughter they thought couldn't plan ahead. Meanwhile, Thomas was making everything harder. He called repeatedly with demands and criticisms. Dad doesn't eat seafood anymore, he informed me, though I'd seen Dad order salmon just last month at a family dinner. Mom will hate staying in a hotel without a spa, he insisted, even though the Larkspur had a renowned wellness center that had been featured in Condé Nast Traveler. My best friend Allison stopped by my office during this planning frenzy and found me surrounded by sample menus, itineraries, and decoration swatches. "This is insane, Rebecca," she said, picking up a custom-designed anniversary card. "Why not just tell them you own this beautiful hotel? They'd finally see how successful you are." That's exactly why I can't tell them, I explained, adjusting the floral arrangement samples. If I tell them now, they'll think I'm just showing off to compete with Thomas. This way, they can enjoy everything without the complication of having to acknowledge my achievement. Allison shook her head. "Someday, you'll have to stop seeking their approval and just live your truth." I was about to respond when my phone rang. It was my mother. "Rebecca, darling, about this hotel you've booked," she began, her voice already tinged with disappointment. I was looking at reviews online, and while it seems adequate, I wonder if it's really anniversary appropriate. The Four Seasons had availability when I checked. "The Larkspur is beautiful, Mom," I assured her. "Trust me." "Well, I suppose we could still cancel if Thomas comes up with something more appropriate," she said. "He's been so busy with his important research, but he always comes through with the best gifts." I bit my tongue and promised her she'd love the hotel. After hanging up, I stared at the elaborate plans spread across my desk. Why was I killing myself to impress people who would never see my worth? Just as I was about to call the whole thing off my phone, dinged with a text from Thomas for your information, invited Aunt Jane, Uncle Robert, and cousins to surprise Mom and Dad. They'll need rooms too. You can handle that, right? I nearly threw my phone across the room. 5 additional guests 3 days before the event, at my fully booked boutique hotel during peak season. This was Thomas's specialty, setting me up for failure. But I refused to fail. I spent that night reworking room assignments, bumping other guests to our partner hotel with generous upgrades, and reconfiguring the entire event space to accommodate the expanded family dinner, all while maintaining my cover as just the daughter who knew someone at the hotel. Little did I know Thomas's surprise guest list was just the beginning of his sabotage. The big day arrived with perfect weather. Sunny with a gentle breeze, the kind of day that makes the Larkspur's garden terrace look like it belongs in a magazine spread. I arrived early to check every detail personally, while still pretending to be just a guest. The presidential suite for my parents was immaculate, with champagne chilling handwritten anniversary cards placed on pillows and a photo album I'd secretly compiled of their 40 years together displayed on the coffee table. My parents pulled up in their Lexus at precisely 3 p.m. From the lobby window, I watched my father hand his keys to the valet with the slightly dismissive air he reserved for service staff. My mother surveyed the exterior with narrowed eyes, clearly comparing it to the 4 seasons she'd mentioned on the phone. "Mom, Dad," I greeted them at the entrance, trying to mask my anxiety with enthusiasm. "Happy anniversary." "The drive was terrible," my father complained, kissing my cheek absently. "Construction everywhere." My mother hugged me, then immediately adjusted my collar. "You look tired, Rebecca. Are you sleeping enough?" "Not everyone has Thomas's energy levels, I suppose." I guided them through the lobby, watching their expressions carefully. The Larkspur's interior was my personal design triumph. A blend of classic elegance and modern comfort with local artwork and custom furniture. My mother's eyebrows lifted slightly as she took in the grand staircase and custom chandelier, which I took as a reluctant admission that the place exceeded her low expectations. "Your room is beautiful," I promised as we rode the elevator. "Wait until you see the view." When I opened the door to the presidential suite, I was rewarded with my mother's small gasp. Floor-to-ceiling windows revealed the mountains beyond the city. The sitting area was arranged around a fireplace with their anniversary champagne waiting, and the bedroom featured a handcrafted bed I'd commissioned specifically with them in mind. "This is quite nice," my father admitted, which from him was effusive praise. My mother touched the embroidered throw pillows. "How did you afford this, Rebecca? It looks expensive." Before I could answer, the door burst open behind us. Thomas strode in designer sunglasses pushed up on his head, his wife Heather trailing behind him with an apologetic smile. "Sorry, we're late," he announced, without actually sounding sorry. "Emergency consultation at the hospital. You know how it is when people depend on you." He embraced our parents as though we hadn't seen them in years, though we'd all had dinner together just 2 weeks ago. "Thomas," my mother exclaimed, her entire demeanor transforming into radiant joy. "You made it, Rebecca. Didn't mention you were coming early." "I wanted to surprise you," he said smoothly, giving me a look that dared me to contradict him. The truth was, he'd never confirmed his arrival time, despite my multiple requests. As they caught up, I noticed Heather slipping away to speak with Jackson, my hotel manager. I followed discreetly, arriving just in time to hear her say, "Doc, Mitchell requested the helicopter tour be moved to tomorrow morning instead." "I'm sorry, ma'am," Jackson replied, "but that will require confirmation from." He spotted me and stopped abruptly. "Is there a problem?" I asked, maintaining my cover. "No problem," Heather said quickly. "Thomas just thought the helicopter tour would be better tomorrow morning rather than the afternoon as planned." The helicopter tour that I had arranged weeks ago, securing the only available time slot during the busy season. "I'll handle it," I told her, forcing a smile. That evening at dinner, my careful planning continued to unravel. We were seated in the private dining room I'd arranged, surrounded by subtle decorations that echoed my parents' wedding colors. Just as the appetizers were being served, Thomas stood and tapped his glass. "Mom, Dad, I have a surprise," he announced. "In honor of your 40 amazing years together, I've arranged for us all to attend the exclusive preview of the symphony's new season tomorrow night. front row seats, my mother clasped her hands in delight. My father beamed with pride. And I sat frozen in shock because I had arranged those tickets weeks ago. They had been delivered to my office in a sealed envelope marked Anniversary Surprise, Confidential. Only the concierge and I knew about them. As Thomas soaked up the praise, I caught the eye of Miguel, our concierge, who looked away guiltily. Later, I cornered him in the hallway. "The symphony tickets," I said quietly. "How did Dr. Mitchell know about them?" Miguel studied his shoes. "He said he was helping with the arrangements. He showed me texts from you, asking him to take over some details. He offered me a very generous tip to tell him all the planned surprises." I felt sick. Thomas had not only bribed my staff, but had fabricated messages from me. Throughout dinner, my parents gushed about Thomas's thoughtfulness while critiquing minor details of the meal that I had personally selected. "The fish is slightly overdone," my father commented. "Thomas, remember that restaurant in Aspen that served the perfect sea bass," my mother added. I excused myself, early retreating to my room on the pretext of a headache. As I slumped onto the bed, my phone rang. It was Jackson, sounding tense. "Miss Mitchell, I apologize for disturbing you, but we have a situation with the wine shipment for tomorrow's celebration. The supplier needs the owner's approval for the last-minute substitution." "I wouldn't bother you, but I'll be right down," I said, wondering how I would slip away without raising suspicions. As I hung up, I realized this weekend was going to be far more challenging than I'd anticipated. Not only was I trying to create the perfect anniversary celebration, but I was now also playing defense against my own brother's sabotage. And I still had to somehow run my hotel without anyone discovering I was the owner. The next morning, I woke early to handle hotel business before my family stirred. In the quiet of the management office, I signed the necessary paperwork for the wine substitution and reviewed the updated schedule. The helicopter tour had been successfully rescheduled, but at significant cost and inconvenience to other guests. When I returned to the family suite for breakfast, I found my parents and Thomas gathered around the dining table, menus discarded. "There you are," my mother said. "We've decided to skip breakfast here. Thomas has made reservations at Bellini's downtown." My stomach dropped. I had specially arranged a breakfast with my parents' favorite morning dishes, including my father's preferred sourdough bread from a bakery across town that I'd had delivered at 5 a.m. "But the chef here prepared something special," I protested. "Thomas says Bellini's was just featured in Food and Wine." My father replied as if that settled everything. "Apparently the hotel restaurant is fine, but not quite anniversary caliber." I bit my tongue. Our restaurant had actually been featured in Food and Wine 3 months ago, earning a rare, stellar review that now hung framed in the kitchen. "You know how it is," Bex Thomas added, with a sympathetic smile that didn't reach his eyes. "This place is nice for your budget, but Mom and Dad deserve the best for their anniversary." Throughout breakfast at Bellini's, I kept excusing myself to take calls, actually rushing to handle hotel emergencies that kept mysteriously arising. A pipe leak near the kitchen that our maintenance chief suspected had been tampered with, a complaint about noise in the room below my parents, from a guest who later couldn't be located, and a confusion about the anniversary cake order, which had somehow been canceled and reordered with different specifications. Returning from my third call, I overheard Thomas speaking to Heather in the restaurant's hallway. "Rebecca means well, but this weekend would have been a disaster without my intervention," he was saying. "I'm salvaging what I can from her budget disaster." Did you see Mom's face when they brought out those subpar pastries? Imagine if we'd eaten at the hotel. Heather sounded uncomfortable. "The hotel seems really nice, though. Maybe we should give Rebecca more credit." "Please," Thomas scoffed. "She got lucky with a decent room rate because it's probably their slow season. Trust me, by the time I'm done, Mom and Dad will forget this was even her idea." I slipped back to the table, my cheeks burning with anger and humiliation. Why was he so determined to undermine me? That afternoon, while everyone was resting before dinner, I went to my room to catch up on urgent hotel emails. When I returned to check on the anniversary dinner preparations, I noticed my laptop was slightly askew from where I'd left it. A cold feeling settled in my stomach as I opened it. Sure enough, my password had been bypassed. I'd never told anyone that I used our childhood dog's name, and several files had been accessed, specifically documents regarding the hotel ownership. I was still processing this violation when Thomas appeared in the doorway of my room without knocking. "Interesting reading material on your computer, Bex," he said, leaning against the doorframe. "Owner of the Larkspur Hotel Group. Very impressive. When were you planning to share that little detail with the family?" "You went through my private files," I said, my voice shaking with fury. "That's a new low even for you." "I was looking for the dinner confirmation," he replied smoothly. "But what I found was much more interesting. All this time playing the modest marketing executive, when you're actually quite wealthy. Very sneaky." "It's not about the money," I said. "And it's none of your business." "Here's where you're wrong." Thomas stepped into the room, closing the door behind him. "Family business is family business. Mom and Dad would be devastated to learn their daughter has been deceiving them for years." "I haven't been deceiving anyone. I just didn't broadcast my success because I stopped myself. Because they'd finally have to acknowledge you accomplished something without their precious support," Thomas finished. Very touching. "But here's what's going to happen. You're going to sign over 50% of the hotel as a fair family share, or I'll tell Mom and Dad about your deception during their anniversary toast tonight." I stared at him in disbelief. "Are you seriously trying to blackmail me for half of my business?" "I prefer to think of it as correcting an oversight in family equity," he replied. "You have until dinner to decide." After he left, I sat trembling on the edge of the bed. This weekend was spiraling out of control. What had started as a simple desire to give my parents a beautiful anniversary had evolved into a full-blown family crisis. That evening, as we gathered with the newly arrived extended family members, I noticed several relatives giving me strange looks. Aunt Jane pulled me aside during cocktail hour. "Rebecca, dear, is there something you're not telling us about this hotel?" she asked. "Thomas mentioned you might have some interesting connections here." Before I could respond, my cousin Mark approached. "Great hotel, Rebecca. Thomas says you're keeping secrets about how you could afford all this. Something about a special arrangement with management." My blood boiled as I realized Thomas was laying groundwork, spreading rumors about me to every relative who would listen. He was systematically undermining me, suggesting impropriety rather than acknowledging my legitimate success. The sabotage continued when a staff member approached our family group and instinctively addressed me as Miss Mitchell instead of Rebecca, causing my father to look sharply between us. "You seem very familiar with the staff here," he commented suspiciously. "I know someone who works here," I said weakly. "From my marketing job." My father's eyes narrowed, but before he could question me further, Thomas smoothly intervened. "Rebecca's being modest, Dad," he said with a meaningful look at me. "She knows the hotel manager quite well. Very well indeed, if you understand me." My mother's expression shifted to shock, then disappointment, as she processed Thomas's implication that I was involved with a married hotel employee. The idea was ludicrous. Jackson was happily married to his husband of 8 years, but the damage was done. My parents spent the rest of the evening treating me with a distinct coolness, clearly disappointed in my imagined moral failings. Later that night, I was approached by my accountant's urgent text. Someone claiming to represent me had contacted him, requesting access to the hotel's financial records. The description matched Thomas perfectly. I immediately called Jackson to review security protocols, only to discover Thomas had been seen entering administrative areas of the hotel earlier that day, claiming to be helping his sister with anniversary arrangements. "I'm so sorry," Miss Mitchell, Jackson said. He had family resemblance and seemed to know a lot about you. He claimed you'd sent him to collect some documents. I ended the call and stared at the ceiling. Thomas wasn't just trying to steal my moment. He was systematically dismantling my authority in my own hotel while setting me up to look like both a liar and a homewrecker to my family. For the first time, I began to wonder if keeping my success secret had been worth the price. The anniversary dinner was set in our garden pavilion, transformed for the evening into an elegant space with twinkling lights and arrangements of my mother's favorite flowers. As my extended family filed in, dressed in their finest, I tried to focus on making this special for my parents, despite Thomas's machinations. I had just finished checking on the cake when I overheard my cousin Megan speaking to my uncle. "Did you know Rebecca owns this entire hotel chain?" she was saying in a hushed tone. "Thomas told me she's been hiding her success from the family for years. Seems weird, right? Like, what else is she hiding?" Throughout the dinner, similar comments surfaced. Aunt Patricia asked loudly across the table, "Rebecca, dear, how does someone in marketing afford to host at such a lovely venue?" Thomas mentioned. "Something about a secret business venture." My mother's eyes darted to me, suspicious and questioning. My father cleared his throat awkwardly. "Rebecca has always been creative with her finances," he said, the implication clear in his tone. I pushed food around my plate, feeling the weight of judgment and speculation. Meanwhile, Thomas played the dutiful son, topping up wine glasses and deflecting uncomfortable questions with practiced charm. Between courses, I slipped away to handle an issue with the kitchen. As I gave instructions to the executive chef about my mother's dietary preferences, I noticed my father standing in the doorway watching with a frown. "How exactly do you know all the staff here?" he demanded once the chef had gone. "And why are they taking orders from you about menu adjustments?" "I told you, Dad. I know people from my marketing work," I said, the lie tasting bitter. "I worked with their advertising team." His expression said he didn't believe me. "The bartender called you by name. The waitstaff keep checking with you about service. And just now, I saw the chef treating you like." He paused, searching for words like "you're in charge." "I'm just trying to make sure everything's perfect for you and Mom," I said, desperate to change the subject. "Thomas thinks you're not being truthful with us," he continued, his voice lowering. "He said you might be involved with someone here, someone who's not available." The absurdity of the situation hit me full force. Here was my father concerned not that I might own a successful business, but that I might be having an affair with a married hotel employee, all because Thomas found it easier to paint me as morally compromised than successful. "Dad, I'm not involved with anyone here," I said firmly. "That's ridiculous. Then explain why that staff member called you Miss Mitchell earlier instead of Rebecca, like you were his boss, not just another guest," he countered. I was saved from responding by a commotion from the dining room. We returned to find Thomas holding court, regaling the family with stories of his medical heroics, while my mother beamed proudly. As I took my seat, my phone buzzed with an urgent message from Jackson Emergency and Security Office. "Hotel financial records accessed without authorization. Need immediate consultation." I excused myself again, ignoring my mother's disapproving look. In the security office, the night manager showed me footage of Thomas entering our administrative area, using a key card that shouldn't have worked for those doors. He somehow had an all-access card, Miss Mitchell, the security director explained. "He claimed to be here on your authority." "And you believed him?" I asked incredulously. "He had identification showing the same last name, and he knew details about the property that only someone with insider knowledge would know," he explained apologetically. "We've changed all access codes now, but he was in the financial office for nearly 20 minutes. Back at dinner, I found Thomas engaged in deep conversation with my father's brother, Uncle Robert, who happened to be a business attorney. They fell silent as I approached. "Everything okay?" Bex Thomas asked with mock concern. "You keep disappearing." "Fine," I said tersely. What were you two discussing? Uncle Robert looked uncomfortable. Just business matters. Thomas mentioned you might need some legal advice about property holdings. The pieces clicked together. Thomas wasn't just trying to embarrass me. He was actively working to gain control of my business by any means necessary. The thought made me feel physically ill. As the dessert course arrived, I received another alert. Someone matching Thomas's description had attempted to access my business accounts online, triggering our bank's security protocols. The situation was escalating beyond family drama into potential corporate theft. I needed to take control before Thomas caused irreparable damage both to my business and to my relationship with my parents. In that moment, watching Thomas whisper something to my mother that made her glance at me with concern, I knew I had reached a breaking point. This wasn't just about wanting my parents' approval anymore. This was about protecting what I had built from someone willing to destroy it out of jealousy. I quietly texted my hotel's legal counsel emergency meeting needed. Family situation, compromising business security. Need immediate intervention options. The reply came swiftly. Conference room prepared. Legal team assembled. Come now. As I stood to leave again, my mother grabbed my wrist. Rebecca, she hissed, this is your father's anniversary dinner. Whatever young man you're texting can wait. The irony that I was being scolded for supposedly texting a lover when I was actually dealing with a security breach caused by her golden child was almost too much to bear. I'll be back for cake, I promised, pulling away. Thomas smiled smugly as I left, believing he had successfully driven me away from my own celebration. Little did he know I was finally ready to fight back. The next morning, the family gathered for breakfast in the hotel's private dining room. Dark clouds had gathered outside, matching my mood as I prepared for what would undoubtedly be another round of Thomas's manipulations. I'd spent half the night with my legal team, securing my assets and documenting the unauthorized access attempts. My parents entered, looking rested, my mother wearing the pearl necklace my father had given her as an anniversary gift the night before. Thomas and Heather followed him, looking confident, her increasingly uncomfortable. Rebecca, my mother, greeted me with a kiss on the cheek. You disappeared before the cake last night. Your father was disappointed. I'm sorry, I said sincerely. There was an emergency I had to handle. More important than your parents' anniversary, my father asked, his tone making clear there could be no acceptable answer. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed with an urgent message from the front desk. A major plumbing issue had developed in the East Wing, threatening to flood several rooms. As the owner, I needed to authorize the emergency repairs immediately. I'm so sorry, I said, standing. I have to take care of something. Again, my mother's voice was sharp with disapproval. Rebecca, this is getting ridiculous. What could possibly be so important? It's just work, I said vaguely, already moving toward the door. On a Saturday, my father's eyebrows rose. Since when does marketing have emergencies? Thomas smirked. Let her go, Mom. Obviously, she has priorities other than family. The condescension in his voice was the last straw. But just as I opened my mouth to finally reveal the truth, the hotel's head of maintenance appeared at the door. Miss Mitchell, I apologize for interrupting, but we need your decision immediately on the East Wing situation, he said, not realizing his mistake. A heavy silence fell over the breakfast table. My father set down his coffee cup with a sharp click against the saucer. Miss Mitchell, he repeated slowly. Why would they need your decision? Thomas couldn't have planned it better himself. He leaned back in his chair, watching the scene unfold with barely concealed satisfaction. I need to handle this, I said firmly, following the maintenance director out. In the hallway, I could hear my family's confused voices rising behind me. Thomas excused himself moments later, following me at a distance. I dealt with the emergency quickly, authorizing the necessary repairs and arranging accommodations for affected guests. all too aware of Thomas watching from around the corner. When I finished, he approached, slow clapping sarcastically. "Very impressive, owner," he said. "The cat's out of the bag now, isn't it?" "Why are you doing this, Thomas?" I demanded. "Why can't you just let me have this one thing?" "Because you lied to all of us," he replied, his voice hardening, "playing the modest little sister while secretly building an empire. How do you think that makes Mom and Dad feel? How do you think it makes me feel?" "This isn't about your feelings," I shot back. "This is about you trying to take what isn't yours." His expression shifted, calculating. "I've been doing some research. Did you know that as immediate family, I could make a strong case for partial ownership, especially if I could prove you used family connections or resources in establishing the business?" "That's ridiculous," I said. "I built this from nothing with my own money and hard work." "But who would the family believe?" he countered. "The daughter who's been lying to them for years, or the son who's always been transparent about his achievements?" He stepped closer. "Here's my final offer. During the anniversary toast tonight, you announce you're gifting a 30% stake in the hotel to Mom and Dad as an anniversary present. They'll be touched by your generosity, and I'll manage their share as the financially responsible party. Everyone wins, except me," I said coldly. "I lose a third of my company to extortion." Thomas shrugged. "Consider it the family tax for keeping secrets. You have until the toast tonight." He turned to rejoin the family, but I called after him. "I found the documents you took from my room safe." He paused. "What documents?" "The security footage shows you entering my room and removing items yesterday afternoon," I said, bluffing. I had no such footage, but the flash of guilt across his face confirmed my suspicion. "I don't know what you're talking about," he replied smoothly, but his confidence had faltered slightly. As he walked away, my phone rang. It was my bank's fraud department alerting me to another unauthorized access attempt on my business account. The attempt had been made from an IP address within the hotel. Thomas was getting desperate. Back in the breakfast room, my family was deep in hushed conversation that stopped abruptly when I entered. My father looked up, his expression unreadable. "Rebecca," he said formally, "I think you owe us an explanation." "I do," I agreed, taking a deep breath. "But not here, not now. Let's enjoy breakfast first." "I promise I'll explain everything later." Thomas looked triumphant, clearly believing he'd cornered me into accepting his demands. What he didn't know was that I'd spent the night not only securing my assets, but gathering evidence of his sabotage. The choice was no longer between keeping my secret and keeping the peace. It was between standing up for myself and allowing Thomas to steal what I'd built. I excused myself to make a quick call to my legal team, confirming that they would be ready with documentation for the evening's confrontation. As I ended the call, I caught sight of Heather watching me from the hallway. To my surprise, she approached. "Can we talk?" she asked quietly. "Somewhere private." I led her to my office, a space Thomas hadn't yet discovered, and closed the door. "I know what Thomas is doing," she said without preamble, "and I want you to know I don't support it." Of all the unexpected turns this weekend had taken, Heather's apparent defection from Thomas's side was perhaps the most surprising. "Why are you telling me this?" I asked cautiously. She sank into a chair, suddenly looking exhausted. "Because what he's doing is wrong. And because you should know the real reason behind it." According to Heather, Thomas's perfect medical career wasn't so perfect after all. A failed research project had cost his hospital millions, and his reputation had taken a serious hit. More critically, they were deeply in debt from poor investments, and Thomas's insistence on maintaining a lifestyle that projected success to the world. "He needs money, Rebecca," she said simply. "A lot of money quickly. When he found out about the hotel, he saw it as the solution to all our problems. So he decided to take it from me," I said flatly. "I'm not defending him," Heather insisted. I told him to come clean to you about our financial situation, to ask for help like a normal person. But Thomas, he doesn't know how to ask for help, only how to take control. The irony wasn't lost on me. My entire life, Thomas had been positioned as the successful one, the one who had everything figured out. Meanwhile, I'd been building something solid while he'd been constructing a facade. "What are you going to do?" I asked her. She stood to leave. "I don't know. But I thought you deserved to know the truth before tonight." As she reached the door, she turned back. "Your hotel is beautiful, Rebecca. You should be proud of what you've created here." It was the first genuine compliment I'd received all weekend from anyone in my family circle. And it came from the last person I would have expected. By mid-afternoon, I was mentally exhausted. The anniversary celebrations continued around me, a champagne tasting on the terrace, family photos in the garden. But I participated mechanically, my mind consumed with the looming confrontation. Thomas had prepared legal documents for the ownership transfer, which he'd smugly showed me between photo sessions. They were surprisingly professional. He'd clearly consulted with someone knowledgeable. The implication was clear. Either I signed voluntarily during the anniversary toast, positioning it as a generous gift, or he would expose my deception and pursue legal channels to force my hand. For a brief, dark moment, I considered giving in. Maybe this was the price of family peace. Maybe Thomas would always win because he'd always been their favorite. Maybe fighting back would only result in losing my parents completely. I retreated to the small office behind the kitchen to collect myself. To my surprise, I found Heather already there, sitting quietly with a cup of tea. "I thought you might come here," she said. "Thomas is busy charming your cousins with stories about his pioneering medical research." "Research that failed," I said, unable to keep the bitterness from my voice. Heather nodded. "You should know something else. The financial trouble, it's worse than I told you. There's been talk of an ethics investigation at the hospital. Nothing criminal, but career-ending if it goes forward." So he's not just looking for money, I realized. He needs a new venture entirely. "Your hotel would be his fresh start," she confirmed. "A successful business he could step into and claim he helped build." The audacity was breathtaking. Even now facing professional disgrace, Thomas couldn't humble himself to ask for help. Instead, he'd try to steal my achievement and rewrite the narrative to center himself. Our conversation was interrupted by a knock at the door. It was Lisa, my head of housekeeping, looking uncharacteristically nervous. "Miss Mitchell, I'm sorry to bother you, but we wanted you to know we're with you," she said. Behind her stood Jackson, Miguel, and several other staff members, all watching me with concerned expressions. "What do you mean?" I asked, confused. "We've seen what's been happening with your family this weekend," Jackson explained. "The way they treat you, the way your brother has been, interfering with operations." "We talk to each other," Miguel added. "We all know he's been trying to undermine you." Lisa stepped forward. "We just wanted you to know that we see you. We see how hard you've worked to build this place, how much you care about all of us." To my embarrassment, tears sprang to my eyes. These people, my employees, were showing me more support than my family ever had. "When you took over the hotel," Jackson continued, "most of us were preparing to find new jobs. The previous owners were running it into the ground. But you saved it, and you saved our livelihoods too." Lisa nodded. "My daughter is in college because of the tuition assistance program you started. First person in our family to go to university." One by one, they shared stories of how my leadership had impacted their lives. The flexible scheduling that allowed Miguel to care for his ailing mother. The health insurance that covered Jackson's husband's cancer treatment. The promotion pathway that had given Lisa, a former housekeeper, the opportunity to become department head. "Your brother came to me yesterday," Miguel admitted. "Offered me $500 to tell him all the anniversary surprises you'd planned. When I hesitated, he implied my job might be at risk if he became involved with hotel management. He had no right to do that, I said, anger flaring. We know, Jackson said. That's why we're here. Whatever happens tonight, we want you to know we're behind you 100%. As they left, Heather touched my arm. You've built something special here, Rebecca. Not just a successful business, but a community. Don't let Thomas take that from you. I was still processing this unexpected show of support when my mother appeared in the doorway looking confused and slightly affronted at finding me with Heather in what was clearly an office. Rebecca, your father and I have been looking everywhere for you. The anniversary toast is in less than 2 hours and you're working. Her gaze swept over the desk, the computer, the files clearly marked with the hotel's logo. What is going on here? Before I could respond, we were interrupted by a hotel guest, an elderly gentleman who had been staying with us for the past week while visiting his newborn granddaughter in the city. Miss Mitchell, he said, nodding respectfully. I just wanted to thank you personally before I check out tomorrow. The arrangements you made for my family to use the private dining room for our celebration went above and beyond. My daughter was so touched that the owner herself would take such care with our small family gathering. My mother's eyes widened. Owner, the man continued oblivious to the bomb he'd just dropped. And the college fund contribution for little Emma. I have no words. Your generosity has touched our family deeply. He shook my hand warmly before noticing my mother. You must be so proud of your daughter, he said to her. What she's built here, how she treats people. It's rare in business these days. After he left, my mother stared at me in stunned silence. Mom, I began, but she held up a hand. I think she said carefully, you'd better explain everything. Right now. Just then, my phone buzzed with a security alert. Thomas had accessed the restricted areas of the hotel again. According to the message, he was currently in the main ballroom, where the anniversary toast would take place, meeting with someone the staff didn't recognize. I will explain everything I promised. But first, there's something I need to handle. As I hurried toward the ballroom, I realized I had reached the moment of decision. I could continue hiding my success to keep the peace, or I could finally stand in my truth. For the first time in my life, the choice was clear. I would no longer diminish myself to protect my family's comfortable illusions. It was time for them to see me, really see me, for who I was and what I had accomplished. With newfound resolve, I pushed open the ballroom doors, ready to confront my brother and reclaim my narrative once and for all. The anniversary celebration was in full swing when I entered the ballroom. Crystal chandeliers I had personally selected cast a warm glow over the gathering. My father, dapper in his tuxedo, chatted with relatives near the bar. My mother, elegant in her favorite blue dress, laughed with her sister. And there was Thomas huddled near the stage, with a man I recognized as a business associate of my uncle's.com, likely the person who had helped prepare those transfer documents. The sight of my brother plotting to take over my hotel in the very space I had lovingly designed ignited something in me. I had spent my entire life accepting second place, swallowing my achievements to keep the peace, making myself smaller to fit the role assigned to me. No more. I approached the stage just as the band finished their set. Thomas spotted me and quickly dismissed his companion, greeting me with a practiced smile. Perfect timing, Bex, he said smoothly. I was just about to gather everyone for the toast. You have the documents ready. I'm making the toast, Thomas, I replied, my voice steady. And there will be no document. His smile faltered. Don't be difficult. We had an agreement. No, you had a plan to steal what I built. I corrected him. There's a difference. Before he could respond, I signaled to the band leader, who announced it was time for the anniversary toast. As family members gathered around, I took the microphone and stepped onto the small stage. First, I want to thank everyone for coming to celebrate my parents' 40 years together. I began, my voice echoing in the suddenly quiet room. I saw my parents move closer, my father beaming with pride at the beautiful event, still not understanding his daughter's role in it. When I was planning this weekend, I wanted to create something special, I continued. Something that reflected the love and care that goes into building a life together the way my parents have done. Thomas edged closer to the stage, his expression darkening. I could almost read his thoughts, his calculation of how to wrest back control of the narrative. Before I continue, I'd like to invite Jackson, our hotel manager, to join me, I said. Jackson approached, giving me a supportive nod as he took his place beside me. There's something I need to share with all of you, I said, looking directly at my parents. Something I've kept to myself for too long. Thomas moved as if to interrupt, but I continued firmly. 3 years ago, I had an opportunity to invest in a small, struggling hotel. Using every penny I had saved and a bonus from my marketing job, I purchased this property when it was on the verge of bankruptcy. A murmur rippled through the gathering. My mother's hand flew to her mouth in surprise. What many of you don't know, I continued, is that I am not just a guest here. I am the founder and owner of the Larkspur Hotel Group, which now includes 3 properties across the state, with a 4th opening next year. The room erupted in surprised exclamations. My father's jaw literally dropped, his champagne glass suspended midway to his lips. I didn't tell anyone in the family because... I paused, searching for the right words. Because I wanted to succeed or fail on my own terms without comparison or judgment. Thomas pushed forward. What Rebecca means is she's been deceiving all of us, he interjected loudly. Playing the modest marketing employee while secretly building a business. Who does that to their family? Someone who's been told her entire life that she'll never measure up, I replied, looking him directly in the eye. Someone who's watched her every achievement overshadowed by her brother's supposed perfection. Thomas scoffed. Always the victim, aren't you, Rebecca? Poor, underappreciated. Mr. Mitchell Jackson interrupted firmly. Perhaps this would be a good time to address your unauthorized access to hotel, administrative areas, and financial records over the past 2 days. The room fell silent again. Thomas's confident expression faltered. Security footage shows you entering restricted areas using a duplicated key card. Jackson continued, his professional demeanor unwavering. You also attempted to access the hotel's financial accounts without authorization, which triggered our bank's fraud alert system. I could see my relatives exchanging shocked glances. My mother had gone pale, clutching my father's arm for support. That's ridiculous, Thomas blustered. I was helping with anniversary arrangements. We also have documented evidence of your attempts to bribe hotel staff for information, Jackson added. And your meeting just now with Miss Reynolds about transfer of ownership documents suggests a pattern of behavior that could be construed as attempted corporate theft. My extended family's expressions were morphing from surprise to shock to something else. A reassessment of the golden boy they'd admired for so long. Thomas, my father's voice cut through the murmurs. What is he talking about? Thomas scrambled to regain control. Dad, this is all a misunderstanding. Rebecca has been hiding the successful business from all of us. Doesn't that seem suspicious to you? I was just trying to protect family interests. By attempting to blackmail me into signing over ownership, I asked quietly. By spreading rumors, I was involved with a married employee. By sabotaging arrangements I made for our parents, my voice grew stronger with each question. By taking credit for the symphony tickets I purchased, by canceling the helicopter tour I arranged, by trying to convince everyone I was incompetent so you could swoop in and save the day, like you've done my entire life. The room had gone completely still. Even the wait staff had paused in their duties, watching the family drama unfold. Is this true? My mother's voice was barely audible. Thomas looked around suddenly, realizing he'd lost his audience. His expression hardened. Fine. Yes, I tried to get a piece of Rebecca's business. And why shouldn't I? She's been hiding her success, playing the struggling little sister while secretly building all this. He gestured around the room. Meanwhile, I've been carrying the weight of being the successful one, the one everyone expects everything from. A strangled laugh escaped me. The weight of being the favorite, the burden of constant praise and support. Try living your life knowing nothing you do will ever be good enough in your parents' eyes. Rebecca, my father began, but I wasn't finished. Do you know why I never told you about the hotel, Dad? Because the day I signed the purchase papers, I called to tell you. You answered the phone saying you were about to go into a dinner celebrating Thomas's research grant. You said, and I quote, "Can whatever marketing thing you're calling about wait? This is important." My father's face crumpled with recognition. He remembered. So I decided then that my achievements would be for me, not for your approval. I continued, my voice steady despite the emotions churning inside me. I built this place into something beautiful, something successful without anyone in this family even noticing. I turned to address the entire room. I'm not ashamed of my success and I won't apologize for it. But I am done diminishing myself to make others comfortable. I am done being the family afterthought. Thomas made one last attempt. She's just jealous. Stop, Heather interrupted, stepping forward to stand beside me. Thomas, it's over. Tell them the truth about why you really want Rebecca's business. The color drained from Thomas's face. Heather, don't. But Heather continued, her voice, quiet but clear. Thomas's research project failed. There's an ethics investigation pending. We're in serious financial trouble because he made bad investments, trying to keep up appearances. The perfect image of Dr. Thomas Mitchell finally shattered completely. My mother sank into a nearby chair, my father's hand on her shoulder. I wanted to believe I deserved part of Rebecca's success. Thomas admitted finally, his voice hollow, that it wasn't fair for her to have this when I was facing ruin. But the truth is, I was jealous. Not just of this, he gestured around the hotel, but of how she built it herself without riding on anyone's reputation or expectations. The silence that followed was deafening. Decades of family dynamics laid bare for everyone to see. Finally, my father spoke, his voice uncharacteristically hesitant. Rebecca, I don't know what to say. This hotel. You own all of this. Yes, I said simply. Every detail you've admired this weekend, from the custom furniture to the menu to the artwork, I selected personally. This is what I've been building while you were busy being impressed by Thomas. My mother wiped tears from her cheeks. Why didn't you tell us? Would you have believed me? I asked gently. Would you have given my achievement the same celebration you gave Thomas's every minor success? Or would you have found some way to diminish it, to suggest it wasn't quite as impressive as medicine, not quite as important? My parents looked at each other, unable to deny the truth in my words. For the first time, they were seeing the pattern that had shaped our family for decades. The anniversary celebration continued in a subdued fashion, guests processing the family drama they'd witnessed. Thomas left early, Heather, following after giving me a quick apologetic hug. My extended family approached me one by one, asking about the hotel, suddenly interested in the achievements they'd never bothered to inquire about before. As the evening wound down, I found myself alone with my parents in the garden terrace. The tension between us was palpable, decades of misunderstandings and hurt feelings hanging in the air. I think my father said slowly, "We have a lot to talk about." 2 days after the dramatic revelation at the anniversary party, I sat across from my parents in the owner's suite of the hotel. The room with its panoramic views and elegant furnishings seemed fitting for this conversation, a physical representation of what I had built while they weren't looking. "So this is where you work," my father said, his eyes taking in the awards displayed discreetly on a side shelf, the framed magazine features highlighting the Larkspur's success. "One of my offices," I confirmed. I split time between all 3 properties, though this was the first. My mother touched the fabric of the curtains, the custom wallpaper examining the details with new eyes. "It's beautiful, Rebecca. Truly beautiful." "Thank you," I said, accepting her compliment without diminishing it. A new behavior I was consciously practicing. An uncomfortable silence settled over us. There was so much to say, so many years of hurt to address, that finding a starting point seemed impossible. Finally, my father cleared his throat. "Your brother has checked into a treatment facility," he said, "for anxiety and other issues. Heather is filing for separation." I nodded, unsurprised. The carefully constructed facade of Thomas's perfect life had been crumbling for some time. The events of the weekend had merely accelerated the collapse. "I'm sorry about his research project," I said, and meant it. Despite everything, Thomas was still my brother. "I keep thinking," my mother said quietly, "about all the times you tried to tell us about your accomplishments. All the times we redirected the conversation to Thomas." My father's face contorted with regret. "When you were 16, you won that regional marketing competition. The one where you created an entire campaign for that local business." I was stunned, he remembered. "The bicycle shop." "Yes," he nodded. "You were so excited showing us the certificate, the letter from the business owner saying they were actually going to use your ideas." And I said, "That's nice, dear, but let's not be late for Thomas's debate tournament." My mother finished, tears welling in her eyes. "We did that over and over, didn't we?" my father asked rhetorically. "Created a pattern where your achievements were secondary. Afterthoughts." I swallowed hard against the lump forming in my throat. "Yes," I said simply. "You did." "I don't know if we can fix that," my mother admitted, her voice breaking. "All those years of making you feel less than." "I'm not looking for apologies," I told them. "I just want acknowledgement. Recognition that I've built something meaningful on my own terms." My father nodded slowly. "You have Rebecca. What you've created here is extraordinary. Not just the business success, but the way your employees speak about you. The culture you've built." We spent yesterday talking to your staff, really talking to them. "The respect they have for you. It's something money can't buy." Coming from my father, a man of few compliments, these words meant more than he could know. I think my mother said carefully, "We've spent so long seeing you through a certain lens that we failed to notice when you outgrew it. When you became this remarkable businesswoman standing on her own feet." "It wasn't just about business success," I explained. "It was about being seen for who I really am, not who you expected me to be." We talked for hours, really talked perhaps for the first time in our relationship. They shared their fears about having favored Thomas, their blindness to the pattern they'd created. I shared my journey from seeking their approval to finding my own path. The conversation wasn't easy. There were tears, defensive moments, old hurts that surfaced unexpectedly. But beneath it all was a current of genuine desire to understand, to rebuild on more honest ground. We missed the anniversary dinner, my father noted, as afternoon turned to evening. The formal celebration had been canceled in the aftermath of the confrontation. "I have something to show you," I said, leading them downstairs to the hotel lobby. In a quiet corner illuminated by soft lighting stood a plaque that had been installed that morning. It read, "The Mitchell Scholarship Fund, providing educational opportunities for hotel and hospitality staff and their families. Established in honor of James and Eleanor Mitchell's 40th anniversary." My mother's hand flew to her mouth. "Rebecca, what is this?" "Your real anniversary gift," I explained. "A foundation that will help our staff pursue education and training. Named in your honor, funded by hotel profits." My father, not usually an emotional man, wiped away a tear. This means more than any party or present. I know, I said softly. That's why I chose it. As we stood there, a staff member approached hesitantly. Miss Mitchell, I'm sorry to interrupt, but some of us wanted to say goodbye to your parents before they leave. To my surprise, a line of employees had formed, from housekeeping staff to kitchen workers to front desk personnel. One by one, they approached my parents, sharing stories of how the scholarship program would change their lives, or the support they'd already received working for me. Your daughter created more than just a luxury hotel, the head chef told my father. She built a community that takes care of its own. I watched as my parents' expressions transformed, truly seeing for the first time the impact of what I had built. It wasn't just a successful business venture. It was a reflection of values they had instilled in me, even if they'd never recognized their expression. The final goodbye with my parents was different from any we'd shared before. The hugs were longer, the words more genuine. We're proud of you, Rebecca, my father said, his voice rough with emotion. Not because of your success, but because of the person you've become despite our failures. We have a long way to go, my mother acknowledged, to undo years of seeing you through the wrong lens. But I hope you'll give us the chance to try. I nodded, unable to speak around the emotion clogging my throat. After they left, I stood in my hotel lobby, my creation, my achievement, and felt a weight lift that I hadn't realized I'd been carrying. The need for their approval, the constant striving to be seen, had shaped so much of my life. Now, standing in the physical manifestation of my success, I realized that true freedom came not from gaining their recognition, but from no longer needing it to validate my worth. 3 months later, we gathered for a family dinner at a neutral restaurant. My parents, Thomas, recently released from treatment, Heather cautiously considering reconciliation, and me. The dynamics were different now. My parents asked questions about my business, showing genuine interest. Thomas, humbled by his fall from grace, was quieter, more thoughtful. I've been thinking about what you said, he told me privately as we waited for dessert. About living your whole life feeling like nothing you did was good enough. I never saw it that way. From my perspective, you were the one who got to choose your own path while I was locked into expectations I never questioned. We were both trapped in roles we didn't create, I acknowledged. Me as the perpetual disappointment, you as the golden child who couldn't fail. He nodded. I'm sorry for what I tried to do. With the hotel, with the sabotage. I was desperate, but that's no excuse. No, it's not, I agreed, not offering easy absolution. Trust takes time to rebuild. I'd like to try, he said simply. To be the brother you deserve, not the one who tried to steal your success. The conversation wasn't a magical fix for decades of dysfunction, but it was a beginning. New boundaries were being established, new patterns of interaction tentatively formed. My relationship with my family was evolving into something more honest, more balanced, more real. As for me, I continued building my hotel empire no longer in secret, but openly, confidently. The need to hide my success had vanished, along with the desperate desire for parental approval. I had found something more valuable than external validation. The quiet confidence that comes from standing firmly in your own accomplishments, recognized or not. The truth I discovered that anniversary weekend wasn't just about revealing my secret success. It was about claiming my narrative, refusing to be defined by others' expectations, and finding the strength to stand in my truth, even when it disrupted the comfortable illusions that had shaped our family for decades. Success, I realized, isn't measured by others' approval or recognition. It's found in living authentically, in building something that reflects your values, and in the courage to let yourself be truly seen. Flaws, strengths, and all. Have you ever had to choose between keeping the peace and standing in your truth? What family dynamics have shaped your decisions about sharing your accomplishments? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. If this resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe for more real-life stories about family relationships and personal growth. Remember to share with someone who might need to hear this message today. Thank you for joining me on this journey. May we all find the courage to live authentically, regardless of others' expectations.